This is a constitutional crisis that we are in today.
Just like Elon Musk did not create USAID, he doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him? We are.
This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like.
In a shocking development, Fox News has leaked audio capturing a USAID official pleading with the FBI to delete evidence. The conversation, now widely shared, shows someone desperate to hide wrongdoing. This revelation has sparked heated controversy and renewed debates about mismanagement, corruption, and political meddling in U.S. foreign aid. People are asking tough questions about what else might be hidden at USAID, and the leaked audio fuels urgent calls for justice. Shocking arrests and suspension. On a seemingly quiet weekend not long after President Trump took office, the nation was shaken by events that looked like something out of a movie. Protesters gathered outside the USAID headquarters demanding answers about long-standing mismanagement. In a move that stunned many, the new administration ordered the immediate arrest of several USAID staff members and imposed a 90-day suspension of the agency. This step, aimed at showing that no one is above the law, came on the heels of mounting evidence that billions of dollars had been misused. The arrest and suspension were not random acts. They were intended to send a strong message that corruption and waste would no longer be tolerated. Supporters of the action argued that decades of financial abuse and mismanagement had gone unpunished, and this bold move was a long overdue wake-up call. The idea was not only to punish those who had abused their position, but also to force a deep internal investigation into how such massive sums of money could vanish. At the protest scenes, emotions ran high. Some citizens cheered the swift response as a signal that the government was finally taking accountability seriously, while others worried that such drastic measures might disrupt important aid programs in countries that desperately needed help. The very sight of uniformed agents making arrests in broad daylight was both dramatic and unsettling. Families and communities that depended on USAID's work, be it in disaster relief or in building schools and hospitals, now faced uncertainty about the future of the aid they had come to rely on. Media outlets buzzed with debates over whether the arrests were purely about fighting corruption or if they were also a political maneuver designed to win over voters disillusioned by past missteps. Critics cautioned that while a tough stance was needed against wrongdoing, care must be taken not to let politics override the important humanitarian goals that USAID was originally designed to serve. In time, many hoped that these dramatic steps would lead to a cleaner, more efficient aid system, even as the images of protesters and arresting officers continued to ripple across news channels and social media feeds. Uncovering corruption and the mystery of lost billions. Investigations that followed the arrests soon uncovered a dark pattern. Billions of dollars meant for helping people around the world had seemingly disappeared. Detailed reports revealed that money earmarked for building hospitals, schools, clean water projects, and disaster relief had been diverted into secret accounts. The vast sums intended to lift up communities in poor nations were nowhere to be found on the ground. Instead of building roads and hospitals, funds found their way into the hands of powerful figures and corrupt officials. The heart of the problem lay in outdated financial systems. USAID was still using old manual tracking methods, which made it all too easy for money to be lost in endless ledgers and paperwork. Due to these archaic methods, every dollar spent was rarely tracked in real time. In one case, millions that should have gone to biodiversity conservation in an African nation disappeared, leaving behind nothing but empty promises. Similar issues were discovered in other projects where vital infrastructure was left incomplete and communities remained in desperate need. Auditors and experts pointed to a mess of poor oversight that allowed money to vanish without accountability. Rather than choosing local contractors who could deliver services cost-effectively, USAID was found to have hired international firms charging sky-high fees. This not only inflated costs, but also meant that little genuine aid ever reached the communities in need. Instead of supporting disaster relief or post-war reconstruction, money got tangled up in complex financial transactions that only padded the pockets of those already in power. Ordinary taxpayers already facing their own financial challenges at home felt a deep sense of betrayal. They had trusted that their hard-earned dollars would help vulnerable people overseas, but instead, they were finding out that the system had been rigged to benefit an elite few. The pattern of abuse was not an isolated incident. It was woven into the very fabric of the agency's operations for years. With every new discovery of diverted funds, public anger grew, and experts argued that the only solution was to completely overhaul the existing system by using new technology, such as blockchain, to track each transaction in real time. Political manipulation and media bias, the dark side of foreign aid. As more details emerged, it became clear that the misuse of USAID funds was not just about lost money, but also about the mingling of humanitarian aid with political games. Originally set up to help the world's poorest communities, USAID's money was increasingly being used as a tool to influence politics, both abroad and at home. Reports and whistleblower testimonies suggested that aid dollars sometimes found their way into political campaigns or were used to support groups that were closer to U.S. interests than to the needs of vulnerable locals. The story took an even darker turn when it became apparent that some of the funds meant for development were misdirected to back political candidates or help bolster regimes that aligned with certain foreign policy goals. Whistleblowers argued that instead of solely building schools or hospitals, USAID had become entangled with the political ambitions of some influential figures. In regions like Eastern Europe, Africa, and even parts of Asia, the selective use of aid had reportedly shifted local power balances in favor of groups friendly to U.S. interests. This was not just charity gone wrong, it was political manipulation at a large scale. Another troubling aspect was the role played by some media outlets. Financial ties between USAID-linked organizations and a number of major media houses seemed to create a cozy relationship. In many cases, news reports painted a rosy picture of USAID's efforts despite emerging evidence to the contrary. Favorable news stories, which were apparently connected to financial relationships, often downplayed or completely ignored the growing evidence of corruption. This controlled reporting meant that the public was frequently fed only part of the story, a story that made the agency look like a hero rather than an institution in need of urgent reform. Many citizens began to see a pattern emerging. They questioned whether their tax dollars were being used to sponsor political interests as much as, or even more than, to deliver genuine help. The resulting mistrust was deep and widespread. Americans found it hard to believe that an agency tasked with spreading hope and relief could also be a pawn in international politics. This suspicion was reflected not only in public opinion polls, but also in the heated debates across news channels and social media forums. Calls for reform and a push for modern technology. The growing list of scandals led to a chorus of voices demanding change. People from many walks of life, activists, experts, and even some friendly politicians started calling for a major reform of USAID.
Have been really foreign to those of us who work in this field. We cover it as a news organization. We broke the story that they were stopping work across USAID programs.
They argued that the problems run deep, rooted in old systems that could not keep up with today's challenges. The same outdated methods that allowed billions to vanish were the reason for so much public discontent. In response, many began to promote new ideas that could bring much-needed transparency and efficiency to the agency. One of the most popular suggestions was to use blockchain technology. Unlike traditional record-keeping, a blockchain creates an unchangeable digital record of every transaction. It would allow every dollar spent on foreign aid to be monitored in real time, making it almost impossible for funds to be hidden or misdirected. Advocates said that with blockchain, every transaction would be open for public view, and checks would be simpler and much more effective.
Blockchain helps with the contracting. It identifies the party. It handles the payments, just through digital payments are built into the system. And it even handles reputation, because if she rates a room as a 5-star room, that room is there, and it's rated, and it's immutable.
Along with blockchain, experts also pushed for the use of biometric systems. These systems could verify the identity of aid recipients through simple measures, such as a fingerprint or a photo. With biometric checks in place, every recipient could be confirmed as someone who genuinely needed help, thereby cutting down fraud and ensuring that funds reached the right people. Beyond stopping fraud, these new technologies promise to speed up processes that had long been bogged down by old manual systems. But technology was just one part of the answer. Many reformers also called for a reorganization of how USAID was managed. Some proposed merging the agency with the State Department to keep a closer eye on its spending and to better align its work with American foreign policy interests. Others felt that decentralizing the management of aid, letting local organizations take charge, might lead to more effective use of resources. These locals, after all, knew their needs best and could often deliver help more directly than a big government agency buried in red tape. What emerged from these discussions was not just a wish for cosmetic change, but a deep-seated belief that the entire system needed an overhaul. People began to see that modern technology and simpler management could bring back the transparency that had been lost over decades. They believed that if every transaction could be tracked and every decision made public, then corruption would no longer thrive behind closed doors. In this new vision, transparency was not merely buzzwords. It was a measure of fairness and accountability. The demands for reform echoed across newsrooms, legislative halls, and community meetings, with ordinary Americans saying loud and clear that change was long overdue. Elon Musk's explosive claims. When billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk entered the debate, the discussion took on a new, even more unsettling dimension. Musk has never been one to mince his words. In a series of public statements and tweets, he claimed that USAID funds had not only been misdirected financially, but were also used to support dangerous research projects. According to Musk, money that should have gone into simple, life-saving projects was being channeled into scientific experiments that carried serious health risks. His statements painted a picture of an agency that was not only financially lax, but also dangerously careless when it came to oversight. Musk alleged that some foreign labs, helped by USAID funding, were running experiments that changed biological agents with little regard for safety. The worry was that such experiments, done without modern safety measures, could lead to the creation of more harmful germs. The idea that public money might be used in a way that could accidentally trigger a health crisis sent shockwaves through the community. For many, Musk's comments were a wake-up call. They forced both experts and ordinary citizens to ask, if we cannot trust USAID to properly manage our dollars, how can we trust it to manage experiments that affect public health? These explosive claims did not come without evidence. Leaked documents and whistleblower stories began to point to mismanagement in USAID's research funding. Journalists found that the agency had not been as clear as it should have been about the amounts allocated for research and the nature of the experiments being funded.
And here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look. Because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on.
Musk's allegations were supported by several independent voices who said that the lack of transparency in these scientific projects was deeply troubling. For many, it was a double blow. Not only were funds being lost for public projects, but they were potentially being used to fund experiments that could backfire in very dangerous ways. The discussion about dangerous research quickly spread into the broader debate about USAID's capability to manage complex, high-risk projects. Critics argued that if the agency could not even account for basic financial expenditures, it was unprepared to oversee projects that could have sweeping impacts on public health and safety. Elon Musk's blunt criticisms added urgency to already simmering calls for accountability. Many felt that an independent investigation was necessary to verify these claims and to ensure that scientific work funded by USAID did not pose any threat to lives around the world. Domestic impact and the uncertain future of USAID. As the scandals and controversies piled up, the focus naturally shifted to what all this meant for everyday Americans. With reports of billions of dollars vanishing and funds being used for questionable projects, many citizens began to wonder, why should our tax dollars be spent overseas when so many problems are right here at home? The debate over USAID grew into a larger conversation about national priorities and how best to use public funds. For many people battling rising living costs, crumbling infrastructure, and struggling schools, it was hard to swallow the idea that so much money was going to aid programs abroad. Critics argued that while the original mission of USAID was pure, to help those in need, mismanagement, corruption, and political interference had turned a noble organization into a tangled web of unanswered questions. The misdirected funds, they said, should have been spent fixing broken roads, repairing schools, or improving local healthcare systems. This growing discontent led lawmakers and activists to propose radical changes. Some suggested merging USAID with the State Department, arguing that a unified approach could ensure tighter oversight and better alignment with America's overall goals. Others felt that the most effective way forward might be to redirect some funds back to domestic programs. They argued that if the system abroad was so deeply flawed, then America should first fix its own backyard. At the same time, proposals for new technology and new management systems kept coming. With ideas like blockchain and biometric tracking gaining ground, it became clear that many believed technology would be the key to rebuilding lost trust. Citizens who once supported USAID's international mission began to see technology not just as a way to stop fraud, but as a tool to ensure that every dollar was spent wisely on projects that made a real difference. In discussions that reached community centers, local meetings, and even dinner tables across the country, people debated the future of American foreign aid. Many expressed hope that with the right reforms and a renewed commitment to transparency, USAID could once again become a force for good. Others worried that if the agency was allowed to continue down its current path, the damage could extend far beyond lost money. It could erode America's standing in the world and leave millions in dire need without help. The future of USAID now hangs in a delicate balance. The ongoing controversies, from leaked audio and shocking arrests to lost billions and dangerous experiments, have not only exposed serious internal flaws, but have also ignited a fresh debate about what our foreign aid should be. The crossroads are clear. Either transform the agency to restore faith and functionality, or risk letting a system fraught with problems continue to operate unchecked. Donald Trump's Christian faith has been evident throughout his public life. He has never shied away from expressing his belief in God, consistently mentioning him in his speeches and demonstrating respect for him. Trump has often emphasized the presence of God and acknowledged his reliance on him, finding spiritual strength in his faith. What sets Trump apart is his willingness to openly declare and defend his faith, a rarity among politicians.
Somebody said to me the other day, "You're the most famous person in the world by far." I said, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." They said, "Yes, you are." I said, "No." They said, "Who's more famous?" I said, "Jesus Christ."
His actions and words reflect a genuine devotion to his religious beliefs. Trump has expressed his complete reliance on Jesus and highlighted the significance of the Christian religion, once stating that Jesus Christ forever changed the world. Trump even humbly said, "The U.S. needs a savior, and it's not me." Melania Trump, Trump's wife, has also demonstrated her faith in God on multiple occasions. While she is generally private about her personal life, her faith is an exception. Melania has publicly expressed her belief in God and even led in prayers during a national prayer service in 2017. This act highlighted the importance of prayer in her life and showcased her commitment to her faith. Melania has been seen attending religious services with her family, including Christmas Mass, further demonstrating her dedication to her Christian beliefs. For Melania, her faith has been a source of strength and guidance. She recognizes the role of faith in her decision-making process and relies on it for wisdom and discernment. Recently, Melania has made some revelations that have sent shockwaves through religious and political communities. But before we dive into the revelations she made and their implications for believers, let's explore some very important context. The Trump couple has been the subject of considerable criticism regarding their professed faith. Many individuals argue that their declarations about God and the campaigns they orchestrate to appeal to Christians are nothing more than calculated attempts to garner support. Consequently, every action and statement made by the Trump family is subjected to intense scrutiny and relentless judgment. A particular incident that ignited endless debates revolved around former First Lady Melania Trump's recitation of the Lord's Prayer at a rally in support of her husband, former President Donald Trump. Some viewed it as a genuine expression of faith, while others perceived it as a crafty maneuver. The American Family Association, AFA, chimed in, with AFA President Tim Wildman asserting that Melania Trump delivered a momentous reading. He contended that acknowledging God in public life is a deeply ingrained tradition in the United States, tracing back to its very foundation. Wildman even invoked President George Washington, who insisted that failure to acknowledge God, religion, and morality disqualified one from being considered a patriot. The authenticity of Melania's prayer became a topic of impassioned discussion. While some accused her of pandering to Christians, others staunchly maintained that it was a genuine manifestation of her faith. Tim Wildman expressed his admiration for the First Family's acknowledgement of God and the Bible, emphasizing the refreshing nature of such openness. However, there were those who found the prayer disingenuous, almost resembling a theatrical performance designed to manipulate the audience. The room erupted in cheers after the prayer, evoking discomfort in some, as it felt more like a pep squad cheer than a solemn invocation. Controversy seems to come after Melania Trump whenever she expresses her faith. For instance, she met with Pope Francis at the Vatican in 2017, where she extended a rosary for his blessing. The Pope placed his hand over hers and made the sign of the cross, a gesture considered a profound honor in Christian circles. Subsequently, Melania took to social media, deeming the meeting an honor and expressing her profound humility. Similarly, at her 2005 wedding in an Episcopal church, Melania eschewed a bouquet in favor of carrying a rosary, symbolizing the deep personal significance of her faith. Despite the criticism Melania endures, both she and her husband consistently issue public statements defending their faith and exhorting others to believe in God and to pray. However, regardless of the sincerity with which Melania articulates her convictions, the majority of responses she receives are rife with censure, accusing her of possessing a spurious faith. Nevertheless, the Trump family persists in expressing their perspectives on faith. They steadfastly believe in God and earnestly endeavor to align their actions with what they perceive as God's guidance. Melania recognizes that she cannot coerce anyone into supporting or trusting her. Instead, she places her trust in God and adheres to what she believes is right. Being thrust into the public eye invariably renders individuals vulnerable to criticism. Melania comprehends this reality and accepts that she will be subjected to scrutiny. The purpose behind the Trump family's prayer was to safeguard churches from undue government influence and to ensure that individuals are not coerced into subscribing to a specific religious doctrine contrary to their deeply held beliefs. Like any Christians embarking on a journey to propagate the Word of God, the Trump family confronts numerous obstacles and trials. They endure withering glances and acrimonious remarks from those around them, yet they persevere, fortified by their unwavering faith and the knowledge that God accompanies them on their arduous path. Moreover, Ordinary believers harbor the hope that more government officials will exhibit candor in sharing their faith, irrespective of their religious affiliation. The prayer delivered by the Trump family was deemed a beautiful expression of devotion, and it is incumbent upon individuals in positions of power to openly profess their beliefs and values. Let's look at practical events where Melania proved her faith.
Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses.
How did Melania Trump seize a moment from an awful protest to pray for the nation? During her time in the White House, former First Lady Melania Trump expressed her reliance on prayer and her desire for healing in the United States. Melania admitted, "As your First Lady, it has been inspiring to witness firsthand what the people of our great nation will do for one another, especially when we are at our most vulnerable." She urged fellow citizens to take a step back, consider different perspectives, and refrain from violence. Melania emphasized the importance of not making assumptions based on skin color or using political differences as a basis for aggression. She highlighted the strength and character of our country, which have been evident in communities affected by natural disasters and the ongoing pandemic. In her call for healing, Melania appealed for grace, understanding, and peace. She prayed silently for blessings upon the nation and its people. It is worth noting that Melania often sought solace in prayer, both for her family and for America. Despite facing criticism, she turned to God and found peace. While she did not explicitly state it, her actions indirectly encouraged Christians to lean on prayer during difficult and exhausting times, reminding us that there is always someone ready to listen to our every word: God. The Bible provides valuable guidance on how to handle hate and criticism, offering wisdom and insights that can help us navigate these challenging situations. One of the key teachings is found in Matthew 5:44, where Jesus instructs his followers to love their enemies and pray for those who persecute them. This radical concept of responding to hate with love is a powerful reminder of the transformative power of forgiveness and compassion. Proverbs 15:1 advises us that a gentle answer turns away wrath, while a harsh word stirs up anger. This verse teaches us the importance of responding to criticism with humility and grace, rather than reacting with defensiveness or aggression. It encourages us to choose our words carefully and respond with kindness, even when faced with hostility. Another biblical principle to consider is found in Romans 12:17-21, which encourages believers not to seek revenge, but to overcome evil with good. This passage reminds us that responding to hate with hate only perpetuates a cycle of negativity. Instead, we are called to respond to criticism and animosity with acts of kindness, seeking to break the cycle and promote reconciliation. Furthermore, the Bible reminds us of the power of prayer in dealing with hate and criticism. Psalm 109:4 urges us to respond to hate with prayer, saying, "But I am a man of prayer. They repay me evil for good and hatred for my friendship." Turning to God in prayer allows us to find solace, seek guidance, and ask for strength to handle difficult situations with wisdom and grace. Difficult situations are great tests to show faith, and the same applies to Melania. Sometimes faith is proven in our support for godly endeavors, even in the face of adversity, controversy, and ridicule. How has Melania's support for Trump further emphasized her faith, and what could be learnt from that? Throughout the first election campaign and subsequent years, Melania Trump made infrequent public appearances, but when she did, she consistently showed public support for her husband. In one notable speech, she expressed her confidence in Donald Trump's ability to fight for the American people, stating, "If you want someone to fight for you and your country, I can assure you he's the guy. He will never ever give up. And most importantly, he will never ever let you down." Melania emphasized that his success represents inclusivity rather than division, as he intends to represent all people, including Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hispanics, African Americans, Asians, the poor, and the middle class. She highlighted Donald's track record of successfully working with individuals of diverse faiths and backgrounds. While Melania Trump did not appear at campaign events after her husband officially announced his re-election bid, she expressed her unwavering support for his third attempt at the White House. Speaking to the media, she stated, "He has my full support, and we are eager to restore hope for the future and lead America with love and strength." As former President Donald Trump announced his re-election campaign, Melania stood by his side, and although she did not attend subsequent events, she emphasized her belief in his ability to achieve greatness and prosperity once again. Melania also shared her commitment to using her platform to promote the well-being of children if her husband were to be elected to a second term. She expressed her continued focus on creating a safe and nurturing environment for children to learn, grow, and thrive. Additionally, she expressed her willingness to address any additional issues that may arise, stating, "If further challenges emerge, I will take the time to study and understand their root causes." Melania outlined her plans for implementing her humanitarian projects and ensuring the integration of messages and projects of faith if she were to continue her role as First Lady. Melania Trump's dedication to promoting the well-being of others serves as an inspiring example for Christians who seek to make a positive impact on their local communities. Following her steps, believers can contribute to the well-being of their communities in various ways. Christians can emulate Melania's call for unity and inclusivity. By reaching out to people of different backgrounds, faiths, and socioeconomic statuses, they can foster a sense of togetherness and promote understanding and acceptance. Building relationships based on love and respect allows Christians to bridge divides and create a supportive environment for all. Melania's emphasis on compassion and service can guide Christians in their efforts to meet the needs of their communities. Engaging in acts of kindness, volunteering at local charities, or organizing initiatives to support the vulnerable are practical ways to demonstrate God's love and care for others.